Hi, I'm Dr. Guy Generals, and I am the president for Community College of Philadelphia. I'm here today to talk to my good friend and colleague, Dr. Bill Hite, who is the superintendent of schools for the city of Philadelphia. Hello, Dr. Hite.
Hello, Dr. Generals. Glad to be with you today.
Good. So we have a couple of questions pertaining to some of the partnership programs that we have, as well as your vision. But why don't we start off by you giving us a little background on your trajectory from the beginning of your career to where you are right now, and then put that into context for what your vision for the city of Philadelphia's children are.
Great, we'll be glad to. So I arrived here in Philadelphia 7 years ago, and prior to that I was in Prince George's County, Maryland, where I was both the deputy superintendent and superintendent for a period of 6 years. Prior to that, I was in a district just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. It's called Cobb County. And then prior to that, I was in a district just outside of Richmond, Virginia, which happens to be my hometown, and that is Henrico County. I've been a teacher, I've been a principal, I've coached, and more importantly, been a district leader. And thrilled with the work that we're doing here in Philadelphia, and I consider myself a learner, so still lots to learn.
Okay. Yeah. And what about the vision? What is your vision for? It's a huge system. First of all, how do you create a vision that encompasses the entirety of the city of Philadelphia, and exactly what is your vision?
Yeah, I mean, and I think as I think about vision, I think about the 206,000 or so children that are educated in public schools here in the city of Philadelphia. And my vision is one of educational equity, and I want all children to be able to achieve their desires, their dreams, and we have to ensure that they have the access, the resources, the supports needed in order to do that. And so I have a vision that's around equity, and I want for all children in the city of Philadelphia to be able to pursue their interests, whether that interest is a career, whether that interest is college, regardless of that interest, I want them to be able to pursue it, and I want them to have the means to do that. And the only way you do that is providing each of them with a high quality education.
That's great. So the question that everyone asks me, what are the challenges pertaining to that vision, and what are those challenges that you least expected once you got here to Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean, naturally there were the challenges that are in plain view: funding,
right,
the environment in terms of the facilities, the infrastructure. So those are all of the things in plain sight. I think one of the largest challenges that I confront on a daily basis, and that our children have confronted for many years, is one of expectations, and one of individuals who are working with them believing that they are capable of doing great things, and that their potential is limitless, and that all they need is access to the opportunities and resources in order to achieve. And so I think one of the things that blindsided me was, depending on where certain children live or where certain children are from, or the circumstances associated with their lives and families, that there were expectations that were already fixed about what they could do, what they couldn't do, and what they could become. And I think that is a challenge that we are continually confronting. And I want to move what is a fixed mindset to a growth mindset,
right,
so that we all understand that we have a responsibility of providing children with the means to pursue their desires and their interest. And I think that is the work that continues here in Philadelphia.
Right. So I noticed that you refer to your student body as children. I refer to them as students because, of course, once they hit 18, they're students and they're adults. But you and I have created a number of programs where there's a transition, there's an intermediate period where students in high school are taking college credits, so they're both our students in many ways. Talk to me about your vision for the relationship between the school district and the community college. Our offices are a block away, so let's hear your vision about that relationship as the totality of the educational experience here in the city.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the totality of the educational experience is the right way to frame it,
right,
and the right way to frame this conversation, because we think a lot about a child's or students or young adults' education as the K-12 experience.
Right.
And I'd like to think of it more as K-16,
Right.
K-18,
Right.
so that we are encompassing all of the resources that are available, or the assets that are
Right.
available for us to collectively educate our
Right.
young people. And work that we've done in partnership with providing more dual enrollment opportunities for
Right.
students,
Right.
where they're enrolled in high school but also taking courses here at the community college.
Right.
You know, our middle college
Right.
is the only one in the Commonwealth,
Right.
and where children are beginning high school and having an experience at the community college that will provide them with an associate's degree upon high school graduation.
Right.
The work that we're doing around workforce development,
Right.
so we can continue to build and develop the skills needed for our children
Right.
and young adults
Right.
to access the economic growth that's happening here in Philadelphia. So I'm excited about all
Right.
of those partnerships. And I think that vision, my vision for that really is about how do we have a continuum
Right.
of education that focuses on the skills and abilities that our young people need and young
Right.
adults need in
Right.
order to access the job market
Right.
here in this region.
Right. How do you create that alignment? I mean, we're doing these great projects. You mentioned the middle college project, Parkway Central. How do we? I guess the term is make it more systematic, system-wide. You know, on my worst days, I refer to them as one-offs. We have a lot of one-offs throughout the city, but how do we make this? How do we get the entire city to embrace this K-16 model? Because that's my mantra. We got to get away from the K-12 mentality and talk K-16, where it encompasses everything from the assessment of students, curriculum alignment, faculty development, parent alignment. You know, we talk about two-generation approach towards dealing with some of the issues. How do we expand that and scale these projects that you and I have been able to get off the ground so that they're citywide?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to get more people at the table when you and I are talking
Right.
about these things. And I think we have to continue to communicate in terms of how do we align our efforts, where does one effort stop and the other effort
Right.
begin,
Right.
and how do we enable all of the departments, the structures, the people around that. And we
Right.
talked about development,
Right.
and you talk about faculty development, where your faculty development could also help my faculty be
And vice
developed,
versa.
and
Exactly.
vice versa.
Exactly.
I mean, and
Exactly.
The things we collectively know about how do we educate young people, young adults, children,
Right.
that we could help share.
Right.
I think the systems that will allow children access to this opportunity without stretching them financially, and that's one of the benefits of community college, and it's been a benefit for many years.
Right.
But I think we have to ensure that more children have access to those opportunities, and that it is a natural
Right.
pathway
Right.
from their K-12 experience into the higher ed experience. And I think that higher ed experience should begin here at the community
Yeah.
college.
Yeah. I always quote you when you say, if you want to give a kid college experience, give them college classes.
That's
I
right.
think that's so spot on. You know,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of projects out there where they go during the summer, they stay on campus, but if you want to give them a college experience, give them a college experience, a college class.
And the students at Parkway will tell you that the expectations are different,
Right.
the behaviors are different, their habits are different.
Right.
They will tell you that. And I think that is something that we want to expose our young people to, because a predictor of college success is experience
That's right.
with college before children get into college. The same holds true in the work world.
Right.
And so if in fact we want children to be successful at colleges and universities, at community colleges, then we actually have to make that a part of our experience.
Right.
And then I think we have to continue to talk about that, and then help align all of the other structures
Right.
around what we're attempting to do, and get other structures who are not involved yet also involved,
Right.
so that we can expand this beyond. So it's no reason why a child who graduates from the School District of Philadelphia is not automatically
Right.
a new student at the community college,
Right, right.
and who may have an opportunity to remain at the community college or go into one of the
Right.
four-year universities
Right.
that are around, but that should be a natural pathway.
Right.
And we can talk about how do we expand those things. Everyone is talking about teachers and the lack of teachers, particularly
Right.
teachers from diverse populations.
Right.
There are ways that we could begin to provide
A
pathway
pipeline, right.
into a teaching credential,
Right.
and that pathway could be a collaboration between the school district
Right.
and the community college.
So for those who may have concerns about a 14-year-old taking college level courses in terms of their readiness, their development, what kinds of answers do you give to that question?
Yeah, I mean, I think all children are different, and
Right.
all children need something different. And I think it is not that's not the point that a 14-year-old is taking college level courses is actually the wrong point.
Right.
The more important point is that a 14-year-old is engaged in his or her learning,
Right.
and that engagement just happens to be on a college
On a
campus.
college, exactly.
And I do think that if in fact we can replicate that type of engagement, irrespective of the age of a child,
Right.
then we're on to something, because that young person is going to be excited about what they do.
Right.
You asked about 14, the young lady who started in the middle college, she was 13, and her excitement about what do you like most about this experience, as she was about to enter her 9th grade year, she says, I am 13 and going to college.
Right.
And so I think that could become realistic for many of our young people,
Right.
and we have to ensure that more young people have those types of opportunities.
Right, that's great. So a couple of weeks ago, there was a report that the city of Philadelphia continues to be the largest impoverished city with the largest poverty rate, 26%. And of course, everyone looks towards education as a response to that. Two-part question. What's the school district's role vis-a-vis our relationship? And what could we do more in terms of partnering relative to career technical education training? And and a broader question is, what is the status of career and technical education? I know that at the federal level, it went from vocational ed, and
Yeah.
some parents don't want their children to go into that field. Just give me a large scale view of where we are with that.
So I want to go back to the poverty point,
Right.
because I do think that that's a significant issue. And yes, education creates the opportunity to match a person with
Right.
a job.
Right.
And hopefully that job is at the level that lifts them and perhaps their family out of poverty. So
Right.
we know that.
Right.
But then we have to get clearer on the types of jobs that are available, the skills needed in order to do those jobs, and then we would be clearer on what we actually do in our schools to
Right.
provide children with those opportunities to experience
Right.
those skills and abilities. And I
Right.
think we still are not clear on that. I mean,
Right.
and many people will say, well, math is a problem.
Right.
Well, reading is a problem. And I would say, reading what? Doing what type of math, and
Right.
how is it applied? And because then I can set up that experience for
Right.
young people. So that's number one. Number two, our focus on literacy, particularly at the early ages, is the most important thing that can happen. We're focused on literacy from 0 to 5 years old,
Right.
essentially, 0 to 8 years old,
Right.
excuse me. And there's a reason for that, because children who are reading on grade level by the time they're 8 years old are less likely to need all of the other structures and supports. And they're more likely to graduate on time, head to college, and be employed.
Right.
And so one of the things that we're really trying to do is focus on literacy at the early ages and
Right.
then begin to lift.
Right.
I think the third and final piece is we have to match individuals who are looking for work with the work that people claim those jobs cannot be filled because there are no people.
Right.
and if in fact we're the largest city
Right.
and have the largest poverty rate of large cities,
Right.
then there's some sort of disconnect, because that suggests that there are individuals who are looking for work,
Right.
and there are people in the workspace who are saying we can't find candidates,
Right.
and somehow we have to ensure that whatever those skills and abilities that are needed in order to do that work, those candidates are getting. And I think that's something that we can continue to work on with and throughout our career and technical education. You asked about the state of that. We're actually in expansion mode with career and technical education. It's available now at all of our high schools.
Wow, really? Okay.
And it is, in some cases, there are programs. In other cases, thank you. In other cases, there are school-wide programs for career and technical education. And so we're excited about the access to those types of programs. And we've also done an analysis of the programs to ensure that they are relevant programs. The experiences are relevant to what children need to pursue.
Right. So we'll kind of wrap this up with the money issue, the finance issue.
Sure.
You know, at community colleges, we're trying to make the case that community colleges, like high schools 100 years ago, are now such a public good that they really should be funded so students can go there for free, similar to our high schools. So every year, we're scrambling to get our state appropriation, our city appropriation. We're trying to keep tuition down. You know, there's pressures on the financial aid Pell eligibility. And cost is a factor. As you know, we created the 50th Scholarship Fund. That's a small effort at trying to make our institution affordable. What's the lasting testament that you want to give relative to where we are with funding your ideas and how important it is to fund education? Well,
I mean, naturally it's important because we just talked about poverty, and the pathway out of poverty is through education. And then if you can't do something as rudimentary as teaching a child to read, then it's going to be hard to have that poverty conversation at the end of that. So I do think that how we think about educational funding is critical to the success of this region, particularly here in Philadelphia. And if in fact we want to create the types of candidates that are needed or are described as needed, then we have to ensure that we have the means in order to do that. And the means is not just more money, it's also training, it's also the materials and supplies that are necessary, it's also the tuition, as you indicated, for the young people who want to pursue these things. And you know, the former President Obama, always talked about, regardless of what a child wants to do, whether it's into the work world or into college, is going to require some sort of post-secondary experience, regardless of what they want to do. And if that is the case, we have to ensure that our children and our young adults have access and the means to have those post-secondary experiences. You only do that through funding. And because we are funded, I don't know about you all, but the public schools are funded through a basic education formula. Now there's a funding formula that deals only with new monies. And so the only way to increase funding for us, which by relationship increases it for the programs that we're doing in partnership, is to get more money into that funding formula. And that's going to require our legislators, our public, our constituencies here in Philadelphia to all talk about the value of education. And if we value it that much, then we're going to have to invest in it. I think that's a good place to end this conversation. We can go on and on and on. I mean, your society's values have to be reflected in its willingness to spend dollars, and whether it's through the legislature, legislators, or the general public, that case needs to constantly be made that, you know, if you think education is expensive, well, we see what poverty costs. So, absolutely. With that, I'll give you any opportunity to close this out for us. Any final statements you want to leave us with? It's always a pleasure to be with you, Dr. Generals. I was hoping I would see you play the drums this morning, but we'll do that next time. We'll do that next time. When you bring your trombone out, how's that? We'll do. All right. Again, Dr. Bill Hite, Superintendent of Schools. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you.